Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Not So Civil Engineers. I'm your host, Sam Moriarty.
And I'm Maggie Rodriguez.
And today we're talking about climbing the ladder, promotions, negotiations, and how to advocate for yourself without burning out.
I'm excited for today's chat because for the first time, we have two guests with us. We have Julia Bushell, who's the SVP of Quality and Regulatory Affairs at Tobin Scientific. And we have Mary Prescott Danielson, PE, don't forget that
Woo,
part,
woo.
who is a project manager at Ty and Bond. We have two guests on today because we want to look at two different journeys of success. Julia is a really fast rising executive who's navigated multiple promotions across two different companies since college. And Mary has been steadily growing at one firm, but has gotten four promotions in her time there. So we want to look at two different journeys, how they've both found success, and what the differences have been.
In this episode, we're going to explore what it really means to climb the ladder as an engineer, from asking to promotions to defining authentic growth and avoiding burnout along the way. Our guests, Julia Bushell and Mary Danielson, are going to share their personal journeys, lessons learned, and strategies for advancing in their careers with confidence.
To start off, we want to talk about early career origins after college, and kind of early growth in our jobs. So I'm interested to hear from both of you, Julia and Mary, to hear about your first roles out of school and what your really career defining moments were at your first jobs and how you gained confidence in those roles. So we can start off with Julia.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, first, thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, we're excited
For
too.
myself, so I studied chemical engineering at WPI and I was there with all three of you. And my first job out of college, I always joke like it's going to be the coolest title I've ever had. I was a beer engineer at a large beer manufacturer. And I did a rotational program, like staying in different cities for a period of time and then landed in New Hampshire for my final placement. For career defining moments, it was, moving from college where like I really had a place, right? I swam at WPI, I had that community, the sorority, the different clubs. Like I always felt like I fit in somewhere. And then I was thrown to Jacksonville, Florida, where I knew nobody, and just really learning how to be an adult and moving across the country at the same time. So it was such a whirlwind at first. But once I really got into my rhythm, what stood out for me is like what I'm good at is I'm probably not the best engineer you've ever met. Like I'll be the first person to tell you that. Like I didn't wake up in high school being like, I love chemical engineering and I can't wait to do that for the rest of my life. Like I was not that girl, but I loved like solving problems and working with technical people. So I was like, this will get me there somehow. I did not have a plan. So when I landed this job, I was just like, I'm just going to do my best. And for me, I realized I was really good at problem solving and working with other people. Could I tell you how every piece of machinery worked intimately? Like, probably not as well as my counterparts, but I was really good at working with different types of people, the operator on the floor or, the site head. I was good at communicating information to different types of people, different types of thinkers. And I discovered that skill at that job because I was communicating to site heads who worked at a ginormous corporation and also, union workforce operators who have been working on that machine for longer than I'd been alive. So vastly different experiences. And I think that's where I kind of found my place.
I can definitely relate to that. I work in the construction industry. There is so much that I don't know, especially since I'm working with people who've been in the industry for 20 or 30 years and know more than I will ever know. But you find like your niche of being able to take the information they give you and communicate it to anyone. And that is its own path.
I think about our experience at WPI and specifically the junior year interactive qualifying project, where we're kind of forced to learn something outside of our comfort zone and then communicate that to many different stakeholders. It's so funny. I think about the people that we went to school with and the paths that they took, and how many of them, Julia, have kind of even gone down your path where we're maybe not as technical anymore, but we're really great communicators and can work with so many different stakeholders and really facilitate and foster that collaborative work environment.
You should get sponsored by WPI. Like, if you had like the goat should just like appear on your
We can
podcast.
like trim that clip and send it to them and be like, you can have this for $200.
I will be charging royalties. Thank you.
Yes. Every admission you get of somebody who watched this, I get 10% of their tuition.
I think that's a fair price.
So let's pop it over to Mary. Can you tell us about your first role outside of college, what your early career defining moments were, and what helped you gain confidence in your role?
Yeah, so like Julia, so happy to be here. I listened to your season one episodes and it was really just so inspiring for me. I love to talk to other women, especially just about career growth. And as you've mentioned plenty of times, just such a male dominated industry, it can be really hard to feel rooted in a community where like you look up and there are not that many women who have walked your path and you kind of wonder, what does it look like for me in my career growth when there are five women who have done this? I think this is just such a great platform and I appreciate being a part of what you're doing. Anyway, so I started my first job at Time Bond right in downtown Worcester. What was really interesting at that time, we didn't really have any entry level engineers in New Hampshire. So I was kind of this pseudo transplant for the New Hampshire office when they needed somebody at entry level to do almost anything. And where that led me was to this really interesting small system that was building a hydraulic model. I'm actually an environmental engineer, but I work at a civil consulting firm. I didn't know anything about hydraulic modeling, but really it's looking at all of the pipes in a system that are underground and modeling their pressures, their flows. You can look at anticipated impacts of a new project. If you replace a section of 8-inch pipe with 16-inch pipe, what happens to the hydraulics of that whole community? I started working on this project. I didn't know what I was doing. My project manager had never done hydraulic modeling either, but I didn't have anything else to do really. So that was like my main task, was learning how to use this software. For the first probably 2 to 4 years of my career, I worked a lot in that hydraulic modeling group. We called ourselves the Mod Squad. We have some cute matching t-shirts. It's very fun.
Love some swag.
60-year-old man designed and picked out for us, which was incredible. And
Even better.
It's
I
probably
loved
so cute.
it's amazing. I've worn the heck out of it. But for me, that willingness to take on a project in an area where like I wasn't really working ended up being this amazing experience for me and helped launch me into another community. Started out similarly, just building them a hydraulic model. And since then, I have designed one of very few biological iron and manganese treatment plants in the Northeast, a bunch of water main projects, and we're getting ready to do an expansion of their treatment facility. So it seemed like just a little project I was taking on, but ended up being what set me off on a very specific path in my career and opened up a lot of opportunities.
What was your title then?
At Time Bond, we called it a staff engineer. I think other firms might call it like an associate level, an entry level. That was our term for somebody that might have their engineer in training certification, but not their PE. So I had that job title for several years prior to getting my PE.
Did you take your FE straight out of college?
I actually ended up taking my FE during senior year. I had a term where I was working part-time. I was doing my humanities capstone project. I saw that the FE was coming up a lot as a requirement in civil and environmental fields. It was like the one time I was probably going to have 3 months to buckle down and study. So I ended up taking it. So I had that before I started my first job.
You did it right. I still have not taken the FE. And I
It's
need
so
to.
hard.
And structural analysis is not something that I've kept in my brain. I really wish I had taken it either during school or right after school, but it's too late now.
When did you get your results back? Doesn't it take some time to get results, or do you get them instantly?
When I took it, it was computer based at that time, and you hear back in like 1 to 2 weeks. So I knew pretty quickly. And I think your approval, at least in the state of Massachusetts, to take the exam is good for a year. So even if you don't pass, you can reschedule.
I always find the other certifications so interesting because my industry is so niche. Like, Julia, do you know if there's any professional certifications you get for chemical engineering?
Some of my friends from ChemEng did get the PE. I would rather die, to be so honest. And that's purely because it's so hard. Like, my boyfriend is a fire protection engineer and he passed the PE this year. And looking at his textbooks, I was like, I feel ill. Like, this is, it's so impressive, the process that you go through. But a lot of the ChemEng just don't go that route. They don't want to sign off on chemical plants. It's pretty rare.
I think that it's most common for civils. There
Mhm.
are so many more jobs you can do, I think, in the other engineering fields without it than in civil or structural or environmental.
So I do a lot of physical building design, and the designers that I'm working with in mechanical, electrical, HVAC, plumbing, they do typically have at least a couple of people on staff have their PE. A lot of the young staff don't go the PE route. They just rely on the previously certified staff, which is totally fair because it's not a fun process.
Well,
So
kudos to you, Mary.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's so fun.
seriously.
Thank you.
Kudos to
Honestly.
you.
It was my COVID project when I could not leave my home or do anything fun. So instead, I studied a lot, but thank you.
That's the
Yeah.
way to do it.
Yeah, that's how I got my master's degree. Shout out to COVID. I'm like, I have nothing else to do. May as well study, I guess.
That's when I went back to grad school was, yeah,
Mhm.
it was COVID. It helped me. My master's degree was great.
Can't relate. I only have an undergrad and no letters behind my name. I need to get on that. I need something because now I work in higher ed. So they like
Mm.
really care about that, even if you don't use it. Like the only reason I would ever get a PE is for the letters. I would never, ever use it.
I don't
I'll
think you.
probably do something else instead. I'll definitely get a PMP at some point, maybe an MBA.
I have a coworker who has, I swear to God, half the alphabet after her name because she has several engineering degrees. Then she went back and got her nursing degree. She got her MBA. We can't even fit her name. Like we're like,
Yeah, it's
Liz, we
like
can't we can't put your official title.
So, Julia, what signs told you that it was time to aim for a higher role each time you moved up?
I am an incredibly competitive person. I need something to like shoot for. Like I'm always signing up for things that I probably shouldn't do, like half marathons and like triathlons, to just like have something to shoot for. I'm motivated by things like that. I've been with Tobin Scientific for it'll be 3 years in January, and I joined at a super exciting time where there's a lot of growth. It was really exciting to be in a company growing so fast. And I'm looking around and I'm seeing we're growing. And as you grow, like your needs change and there's growing pains and all that. And I'm like, well, who's going to manage that? Who's going to do that? I went to my boss, who's the CEO, and I was like, I think you need this. And he's like, is that role you? And I was like, yes. And this is how we're going to get there. And I like talked through like a slide deck. It was like the nerdiest thing. And he's just, kind of laughs at me. I've found success in like advocating for myself with like data behind it, being like, hey, I've been a department of one for the last year. I've improved this process by this percent, like putting numbers to it. The engineer comes out of me every once in a while. Like if I improved a process by 50%, they resonate with things like that. Or my department tripled in the last year, like things that people can really hang their hats on. And then it's really hard for people to say no when you back up with data like that. So for me, it was just looking at my surroundings, noticing the growth, and like, well, if the company's growing, I should be too. Why shouldn't it be me? I've been here, I've been like an integral part of this company. Like, why not me?
I think about startups and how quickly things can grow and change. And you don't want to be the person that's sort of left behind in that growth. So I think it's really
Totally.
great that you were able to advocate for yourself, grab the data and just run with it. That's such a boss move. Wow. I'm very impressed.
That's
That's
very
something
kind.
I kind of struggled with at the job I'm at now. So I was working for the federal government for 5 years, and we had very distinct KPIs, which for anyone listening, those are key performance indicators, and they're measurable indications of how well you're doing in your performance. And so it was always really easy for me to advocate for myself because I had information to back it up. I came to my role now that didn't exist before I'm in it, a role that basically my boss was like, oh, we're going to build this together. So at my first evaluation, I told him that my biggest challenge so far has been not being able to tell if I'm meeting expectations because there aren't any expectations. There aren't any measurable metrics.
I mean, if no one's going to tell you like what the outcome is, be like, okay, I know you want to improve this process. This is how I define that getting better. And if they tell you you're wrong, you can respectfully be like, well, tell me what's right. Like you haven't given
Mhm.
me that guidance. So I'm running with it. I'm taking the initiative. Like you can always flip the verbiage, right? Hey, like why did you measure this KPI? I didn't tell you to do that. Like, well, I'm advocating for my role. It's new, right? We got to put guardrails. I'm creating those guardrails for you
Hmm.
because I saw a need, right? all those buzzwords that people like tease about on social media, like it does work on some level.
So, Mary, you've grown within Tie and Bond. What made you decide to stay and grow instead of getting a job at another firm in order to advance? Did you ever look elsewhere? Did you ever consider leaving? Or did you know that you wanted to stay loyal to one firm?
This is always a really interesting question and reflection for me personally, because my husband has changed roles multiple times, and I've kind of seen that playing out on the side. For him, he loves this rapid new growth at a new place. And for me, I love that sense of community. I came from a very small town in very rural Maine, and then I moved to WPI, where my class was larger than the town that I grew up in. And it was very shocking. But then I found my place at WPI, and the reason I chose my company was everybody I spoke with when I was interviewing just really reiterated how strong the sense of community was within our firm. And I had always felt that in my early years at Time Bond. Everyone was just super supportive, even when I felt like I was asking a million questions every single day and didn't always feel like I was picking up everything that was happening. I had an internship in a wildly different industry. I was in gas distribution, and then I moved to water treatment, and it was just all very different. But there were definitely times, especially inflection points of my career, when I got my PE certification, where I took a step back and reflected on whether my current firm was still meeting my needs. I did interview elsewhere multiple times over the past 8.5 years, and I just always came back to the opportunities, and the people within my current firm were just so supportive. And every time I asked for a new opportunity or I put my hand up for a project, everyone let me do it. And so I ended up with these very fulfilling projects that were the kind of work that I wanted to be doing. I got a lot of opportunities with my first supervisor. He gave me every opportunity I asked for, and he would give me a lot of face time with our clients. He started giving me those opportunities very early in my career. So I felt like I was already getting to see the real everyday impact of my work with my clients like 4 years into my career. And then I looked at some of these other firms that I could move to, and I would be stepping back into a more office facing, super technical role. I've been technical for the last probably 7.5 years, but the last year has really been this more like people management, project management. And I just felt like that was such a downgrade to go back in time to a point where I was not getting that type of face time, because really the civil engineering world in New England is very tight. And so I felt like I had built this network for myself, and was getting the support and opportunity that I asked for at every turn. They've met me where I wanted or exceeded what I was asking for. So they made it a pretty easy sell, but definitely was very rooted in the people that I was working with.
Do you feel that that fulfillment that you get from the community factors in more than maybe some other benefits, like not something that a monetary value can put on?
Absolutely 100% yes. A very interesting choice I made early on was I actually turned down another offer for my first job out of college. That was a higher paying job. They just weren't working on the types of projects that I was very passionate about. And so I said no to that offer, not really having Tie and Bond yet lined up. But the pay was lower. It was a lot lower for many years of my career, but the general community and opportunities that I experienced just felt for me worth it. They paid a lot more towards my master's degree than some competing firms. And then the times where I felt like maybe the money was not keeping up with expectations or my job performance, they stepped up to the plate when I asked for it.
I don't think you can even put a value on good management, because my first job out of college was a really good salary and a company where I could have made a lot of money in the long term. But I didn't feel supported and I didn't feel any sort of like community, and it was miserable. And then I worked for the government where the salary drops, but I had manager after manager who just hit it out of the park and wanted me to succeed. Similarly, if I asked to be put on a certain type of project or something, they would make the effort to try to help me do those things. You really can't put a value on it, because not only does it help you to be successful, but it also snowballs and makes you more confident, like you can do more because you're not feeling like you're not worth it.
I feel like I've learned so much from really good managers, and I've also learned so much from really bad managers. Because, like, if you have to deal with someone day in and day out who makes you feel like, there's this toxic corporate America BS going on or whatever it is, it's just like, you know what, maybe this isn't for me. And that's super informational as well, just as much as having a really good manager.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I took some of my experience of being in tech and I had a manager who was very hands off. And I think it's just because she had a large geographic area that she was supporting and had a large number of direct reports. So she couldn't give me maybe the attention that I had wanted so early in my career. Now, as a people manager, I take the time to have more of those personal relationships because I know how much it benefited me when I did move companies and had a manager that wanted to meet with me every week, not just about work stuff, but also check in on life stuff. So let's talk about what it takes to actually move up, the conversations that you have to have, the mindset, and most importantly, the self advocacy. Julia, when you were pursuing new roles and promotions, how did you advocate for yourself? Did you do this directly or through visibility and results?
So this is something that's super important to me. I think it's a skill to advocate for yourself, and it's really hard. It's really difficult, and it's like it's hard not to get nervous, stumble over your words when you're doing it. But I don't do well with indirect conversation. I'm a pretty direct person. That's what works for me. In saying, I'm interested in this promotion. Here's why. Again, coming with data to back that up of, hey, like I've exceeded whatever the parameters were, or if there were no parameters, giving examples of how I've gone above and beyond whatever I can get my hands on to back myself up. Because so many people don't. So many people assume that just being a really hard worker is enough, and it should be. Like, you should just be able to be an incredible worker and then be promoted. But going that extra step of just going to your manager and saying, you know what, I'm interested in this next step, and here's why, even if it's I want a new challenge, or I saw this person do this and that was really exciting. Like, that's reason enough. Or, hey, I've been at this company for 5 years and like I haven't seen that growth, but here's all the examples of why I've been doing a really good job. The worst they can say is no. And like, that's okay. Rejection is information you can work with. If you advocate for yourself saying, I want this promotion, here's my example of why, and they're like, nope, that's information you can work with, right? Like, obviously, like it's a little rejection, right? And you're like, well, I'm great. Why wouldn't I get promoted? Whatever the reason is, you can now make a decision. That information I can sit with and I can keep working whatever the next milestone has to be for me to get that role, or maybe I look somewhere else. Obviously, that's like kind of an extreme example, but if that's something that's super important to you, a rejection is information you can work with. So like getting comfortable with the possibility of getting rejected is just as important as like getting the courage to say something, because you can't get punished for being like, hey, I'm doing a good job. It can be beneficial, or you have a new decision to make, and that's okay too.
I was going to ask, what would you say to someone who had experienced rejection and is going at it a second time?
I have been rejected in my quest to get promoted a couple of times. For someone who's doing it a second time, be ready for a second no, but knowing that you said you went for it twice and they said no, I think you have the power to push back to really get an answer as to why. If it's they can't give you a straight answer, like that's information too. Like, okay, maybe this isn't a place I am going to find growth. And like, that's really good to know. Like, okay, like this is my career, right? The only person that can make it as good or as fruitful or as exciting as I want it to be is me. So if I'm telling my manager with all of the information that you should need to get promoted and all the data supports and your coworkers love you and they're still saying no, that's information too. And it can be really powerful. And then they can't be surprised if you're like, hey, I'm unhappy. You communicated. Your work is a relationship. You have communicated the problem. There's been no resolution. And if they're saying no again with no timeline, like, is it financial? Like, oh, it's the end of the fiscal year, whatever. And it still doesn't happen when they say it's going to. Take that in, make a decision on what's right for you. A rejection isn't always a bad thing. It might mean the next thing is even better.
That's something we talked about kind of briefly in our last episode, that if you're seeking out a promotion or an award or recognition or something, and you're being rejected, but not quite getting a why, or getting a why that you've never heard before, then you probably need to request more frequent and honest feedback. Because if you're not getting good enough feedback, then you don't know what you're working for. Like if you're consistently hearing you're doing a good job, but opportunities are passing you by, then there's something that's not being communicated.
And like that means that place might not be like the growth place for you, whether it's like your manager is the stopgate or just that company in general. Like, okay, maybe my growth ends here. You know, I got so much out of this experience. I got everything out of this experience I could. I tried to get more. That door closed. So that just means like something better is going to come my way, even if it takes a couple tries. Ultimately, this is long-winded for it's okay to get rejected. Every single person gets rejected at work. People don't talk about it. Like, I just got this giant promotion that I'm so grateful for. But like before that, at previous companies, like there were a million no's. It was, you're not old enough, you're not experienced enough. There was a million of those. So like every success LinkedIn post, you have to remind yourself if like someone else got that role that you were like, oh my gosh, I would have been so great at that. That person got rejected a million times too.
Another place where there's a lot of rejection or a lot of fear of rejection is in negotiation for things like titles or salary or different projects like Mary and I were talking about earlier. So, how do you approach negotiations knowing that you might face a rejection?
To like add to that question, do you always have a slide deck ready or
No, that's a little aggressive. But I'm a pretty aggressive person, but I have a really good working relationship with my manager. So like, that's just something that works for us. And I don't do it every time, but I come ready with that information like written down on my computer so I can always reference it, whether it's like market data or key performance indicators or numbers I can talk to and like talk through examples. So going into negotiation, you have to know what's important to you and you have to do it scared. I still get nervous, like I talk a big game, but going to my boss who I have a really good relationship with, I'm like coming in, like stumbling over my words a little bit. Like it's nerve-wracking because, you know, we're taught generalizing here, you know, in women, what do we value? You don't want to rock the boat. You want to be, you know, really pleasant to be around, pleasant to work with. Like, those are the things that are valued, and asking for more money can kind of feel greedy or negative. And it's like, well, that's not what it is, right? Like you're advocating for yourself because you're great at what you do. And there's nothing negative about that. So again, it's about getting really comfortable with the idea of rejection. But for me, going into negotiation, like what's important to me? Is it title? Is it money? Is it both? And having examples of why I want those things on top of the data. There's quantitative and qualitative information you should come with. So, like, my most recent promotion was a big jump for me, and it has this big, scary title along with it. The salary I'd kind of done before, but this was like stepping up into more of an executive level. So, for me, it was talking about I helped build this department, and now I want to help others step into the roles that I was in and do it without me there. Like that's how I know I've built a really good program, is that I can leave and it would not fall apart, as opposed to like doing the thing every single day. I want to support the people that are doing the thing every single day. So I think going to negotiation, know what you want, have backup reasons as to why on the quantitative side and the qualitative side. People resonate if you're like, you know what, I really want to be here. I really want to do a good job. And here's the reasons why I love it here.
I've definitely also had these negotiations or asked for promotions that have also been no's or not right now's, or maybe you get 75% of what you were hoping for. So I always go into negotiations with the stretch goal of this is what I want and where I want to be, having in the back of my mind what would be enough to keep me here, what's the real goal that I definitely need to keep growing here, and then figuring out where the resolution lands, and then sitting with that and figuring out, was that really enough? Am I going to continue to feel fulfilled in all the aspects of my job, or is it time to pivot and think of something else? So I think it's also not always binary. It's not always a yes or no. Sometimes it's we did the best we could because of whatever the financials were that year, or maybe there are other factors. I've also been part of a lot of acquisitions, and sometimes merging job titles gets very complicated when you're bringing on another firm. And so sometimes there are other aspects that are not fully known to you as an individual contributor at your company, but may be happening in the background. So it's also really important to start these conversations so you can get that type of information and know that even if it is a no or maybe not right now, how do we get there? And maybe there are other things that are not necessarily only your performance that are contributing to what the outcome is.
Agreed. And Mary, working in design, you probably don't have as many data-driven accomplishments to bring to the table. A lot of stuff is kind of more qualified than quantified. So, what kind of case do you make when you bring something to the table for negotiation?
That's a great point. It can be very challenging. I also work on multi-year projects. I sometimes don't even see a design come to completion in the course of 2 years. So that can make it really challenging to outline what your accomplishments were. But often, what I have done when I go in for my performance review or my regular monthly check ins, I'm always looking for feedback on how are the teams that I am building feeling about the dynamic or the environment that I'm creating. Especially now that I'm at the point where I'm running a team, I serve as a technical specialist in one aspect of our company, I serve on multiple subcommittees. There's a lot of things that I'm doing that they may not have data, but they're contributing to an overall environment. So a lot of the time it's bringing those things that maybe didn't make it onto a performance review for whatever reason, other things that came up, opportunities that arose, and really highlighting, yeah, I could have gone through the motion and done the day-to-day design stuff that I'm hired to do, but I also served on these committees and we hosted these events and 50 people came to this outing that we organized, and really figuring out how we can highlight not only, yes, I executed these deadlines, but the other aspects that I, as my unique person, am bringing to the company and helping build the community that I want to be a part of at my firm. But it can be really hard. I find it very challenging, especially with the timescales of my jobs, to say, I finished this 52-week project on week 50. It doesn't feel that impressive in the moment to meet the deadline that you were given. But, oftentimes I'm looking at how many times do we have to go and rework a portion of the design, or maybe we only had one round of revisions, looking at that aspect too, and the overall comments on that design. So maybe it's not that we did the design on time or that the client was happy with it, but it's kind of some of those process efficiencies. Those are just some of the things that I personally am looking at when I'm going in to advocate for how my performances stand out from others.
And you are in this more, what you were saying, more client facing role. Is that also a part of your negotiation strategy where you're looking at what clients have said over the years? Would you say that that's something that is also taken into consideration with your promotions?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's maybe one of the few times that I'm able to quantify something too, because a lot of client satisfaction comes in the form of repeat work. One of my main clients that I do a ton of work for year over year, when I started at the company, we had one contract with them. It was the one job that I was working on. And now, 8 years later, we have 25 plus contracts with them. You can look and you can see my name charged to 98% of those projects. There's a reason the client keeps choosing us and not a competing firm. I save all the little, we call them quotables when it comes performance review time. And that relationship building is a huge aspect, especially in the industry that I work in, the community that I work in. 80% of our work comes from 20% of our clients. So the fact that I'm able to keep this loyalty, and you can see the results of that in satisfied clients who sign our request for extra money when things do go over schedule. There's a reason that they agree to these things, and it's because of the communication. It's because of the high quality deliverables.
Sam, we're hearing from two very confident women who have advocated for themselves a lot. What are your thoughts on asking for raises and promotions and how to balance being assertive with the perception that we have to maintain as women?
Great question. I think I've had some past experiences that I've talked about last season around when I was a technician and going to my boss's boss to ask for a promotion simply because it was something that I'd brought up to my manager. And like I had said, was a very hands-off manager and was like, you know what? I don't think that you're ready. Like I was still very young in my tenure with the company and also, just not very involved in what my day-to-day work looked like. And even though I came to the receipts with her, her. She was like, I think you need to go higher up. I can't give you what you're looking for. So I was able to do that, and I got a 40% raise and a title promotion, which is wild. And I definitely felt supported by my manager's manager at that time. And she saw my data. She saw how much time and effort that I put into curating that material for her to be like, I want this. I want to stay here. I want to grow. And it also helped that I did have an external offer on the table as well. Assertiveness, I think I experienced that in my most recent promotion from supervisor to manager with the company that I'm at now, where I was someone who had only been with the company for 6 months. I had a group of managers above me that I reported to for different projects, for different aspects of my role. And they were the ones that told me to apply for this manager position, even though was not qualified for, did not have the experience, but I had started taking on some of the initiatives to really improve my department. And when it came down to interview, I interviewed with my two past senior and executive directors, and they basically said, we have someone else that could be in this role. We just don't know if you're ready for it yet. And I told them that that was fine, but I was going to stop doing all of the extra work that I had been doing. And that was a little risky of me, and sort of that assertiveness where it's like, I want to continue doing this. And I know that I can do a good job and really make this department better. I want you to give me that chance. I'm not going to force you, but if you do pick another candidate over me, I am going to step back from some of my extra responsibilities that I decided to take on voluntarily. Thankfully, it worked out. There is an alternate universe where I think it could have severely backfired on me. I want to be perceived as someone who's strong and knows how to advocate for herself. I don't want to be someone that just accepts what's in front of me. Like, I'm always going to strive for more. So that's what I did.
To add to that too, I work with a lot of like vendors and clients, and people resonate if you hold other people accountable, whether it's your vendor, whether it's your client or your boss. Like if you're consistently holding people accountable, then people know that you're going to hold them to whatever they said, or your example of you're doing all these extra things. Like, okay, that's fine if you don't want me to be in this role, but if I'm not in this role, I'm not going to do the things that you would expect for someone in that role. And like holding them accountable, a lot of people don't do that. They just like take whatever is said at face value, and then people get comfortable doing that. At my company, we always joke I send a lot of spicy emails to vendors, like holding them accountable, but we're not going to be the best if our vendors aren't the best. So like doing that to your boss in like obviously a respectful way, like not like a rude way, but you can hold people accountable even if they're your boss, your boss's boss. You can do it in a way that's still respectful.
I don't know if any of you will have experienced this. Maybe Julia, since you've lived outside of New England and worked outside of New England. But my experience with assertiveness and like people's perception of me has been all over the map because I moved from college in Massachusetts where everyone is fast and doing everything they can to be better, to Honolulu, where it was just so different. And even in a super fast-paced industry, working on a construction site, there was still a shift that needed to happen. And I did not catch on to that at first. And I came in like way too hot. And there was a bad perception of me because I was a girl who moved very obviously from the Northeast to Hawaii and like did not get it. And I was way too assertive and I was viewed as aggressive, even though in a logical sense, I wasn't aggressive with people, but it's just the perception when there's a cultural difference. And so I learned a lot there about how I needed to alter to be perceived in a better way. And then moved to North Carolina where it's not exactly the same as Hawaii, but it's still definitely not New England. And then I moved to Italy where nothing gets done ever. And then I moved back to Connecticut. And moving back has been the craziest culture shock of my life because having grown up here, I thought it was going to be back to the normal, but I didn't realize that 7 years has really impacted me. And so now I'm trying to balance being somebody who picked up a lot of the culture, a little bit more type B and a little bit more outgoing and laid back. I don't want to take that too far and have people here see me as like aloof. So I'm currently on the opposite side, trying to be assertive enough that people know that I care. Because here we're back to the hustle, the fast-paced life, where I don't really have to worry about being too assertive. I'm on the opposite end.
Oh my God. Yeah. When I moved to Florida, I stuck out like a sore thumb. I was this girl from New Hampshire who talked way too fast. I walked way too fast, sprinting around the manufacturing floor. And I'm like, why isn't everybody running? Like, we have shit to do. We gotta go. And everyone's like, what is going on with this girl? Like, why is she freaking out all the time? Because like that's just New England. The culture shock I think was really good for me because I think it kind of taught me how to like know your audience.
Mm-hmm.
And I spent some time in St. Louis as well, very different environments. Something that always helped me when you're in a group of people and someone's talking, like, who are people gravitating towards? Who are people constantly looking to see, like, what their reaction is? And, like, why is that? Is it because they are approaching this more on a type B personality or type A? And, like, you don't have to change who you are, but, you know, you can make small changes to your tone in your voice or how quickly you respond to something. If you see what other people are doing that works in that group, that has helped me along the way when I, like, am in places that I definitely don't fit in.
I had a coworker last week. We were in a group, we were all eating lunch together, just chatting, and he said, "You don't have RBF." And I said, "Oh my God, I can't tell you how long I literally trained myself to have a pleasant, resting face instead of like a scowl." I was like, that is so good to hear because I don't know, 6 to 8 years ago, nobody would have said that to me. That's for sure.
Little things impact how people perceive you if you're just like sitting at your computer and like someone can take an impression from that. It's nuts.
Yeah.
I had sort of a mini culture shock on my road trip with my mom out west. I can't even count on both hands how many very pleasant interactions I had with strangers. Reflecting on it, I was like, I don't think I've ever talked to this many people in like this time span in New England before. Like
I was
strangers.
I was texting my neighbor, my old neighbor from North Carolina. She was from New Jersey. She was like, "Oh, how's it been back in Connecticut?" And I was telling her a little bit about like the culture shock, and she said every time her family goes down there to visit, they're like shocked at how many people are talking to them. And I was saying that like my poor husband grew up in mainly North Carolina and is so used to the small talk at the grocery store, with the store clerk, at the bank, anyone. You have a conversation with them. Here, people look at you like you are insane if you just like start having a conversation with them. It's so different. I think the rest of the country is pretty much like that.
Yeah, my brother always says like there's like this stereotype that people from New England are mean but helpful. So like if you're stuck on the side of the road, somebody's probably going to say something to you about why that happened, but then will also be helpful, but they're certainly not going to start out like with the niceties.
You know, it's funny. The same coworker who said, I don't have RBF, also grew up in rural Maine and said that exact thing. He said, if you're
Yes.
stranded on the side of the road, somebody will change your tire while they talk about what an idiot you are for being stranded on the side of the road. So I think it's a rural
Yeah.
Maine thing that like you guys get stranded on the side of the road a lot.
It happens in New Hampshire too, okay?
Fair.
So I'd love to chat about navigating growth and balancing it with maintaining mental health and avoiding burnout. I know that burnout was one of our most successful episodes on season one, but it is very real. And I know that a lot of us experience it, especially with the hustle culture that we've talked about so much today of being in New England and trying consistently to be better and looking for our next move. So I'd love to chat about what your signs are that you're potentially heading towards burnout or that someone on your team is heading towards burnout and how you prevent it.
This is a really good topic, and it's something I'm very bad at. Anyone from my company who listens will be like, you better not lie because you're bad at setting boundaries. It's something I'm actively working on. But for me, like personal red flags is my fuse gets short. I'm never like yelling at someone, like, you know, screaming, calling them names, but I notice things that shouldn't get me frustrated, I'm like worked up about. That's a huge sign to me. I'm like, okay, I need to take some time for myself and, you know, be better at stepping away from work when work is over.
I notice the exact same thing, Julia. Sometimes I hear myself talking, and in the moment, I'm like, I sound like such a jerk right now. And it's not even that I'm saying anything rude, it's just the delivery, how curt I'm being about delivering that feedback. That's definitely a big one for me. I am also actively working on setting boundaries myself. Not very good at it, but one thing for me that's been kind of interesting is I've lived with my now husband since I graduated college. So we've kind of navigated this growth in our careers together the whole time. We're always very chatty, and I can tell when I start getting kind of reserved or despondent at home, like I know work has permeated way too far when I'm not chatting, when we're walking our dog after work. And that's usually it's gone too far, and you probably should have stopped weeks ago. But that's the two red flags. Two hands are up. Please stop, figure it out, get better. With my team, it's very challenging. I have a very young team, and they all started during COVID in this weird hybrid environment while also navigating that. I can't even begin to understand what it's like to start your career in that way. I also just haven't physically been around them for as long. So I struggle a little bit with seeing their signs, but kind of similarly, like I have one very outgoing team member that tends to overexert themselves as well. And I notice when I don't see them out chatting with other people in the office as much or attending social events, that maybe that's a time we need to have a check in, not to downplay the work that any of us are doing because it's all very important. But the reality is, you have a bunch of layers above you at your company, and it shouldn't be that impactful to your day to day life. So that's when I know my team really needs a check in.
Yeah, I think something that's been helpful for me because it is really hard to like know what someone else's signs are is like when I'm feeling it, I will tell my team like, hey, you know what? Like this week sucked and like I'm not my best self today. Try to be a little bit relatable about it, I guess. Yeah, I'm your manager, but I feel the burnout too. Are you feeling it? Maybe let's end at 3 today or whatever. So that if they do feel like it's too much, maybe they'll feel more comfortable coming to me. It opens the door to talk to me about it since I'm willing to share. It's okay to feel that way as long as you address it and do what you have to do to feel more like yourself.
Are there things that each of you do to help when you are feeling that burnout? And then how soon do you start to feel refreshed and recharged?
I feel like I had a very interesting experience up until January of this year. I was getting overtime for my time worked. So for me, it was really hard to know when to stop because I was at least seeing a benefit of it, right? And especially then going to a all remote slash hybrid environment where my computer was constantly open and it was so easy to log on. Like it was very hard to draw boundaries. But for me now, especially moving to a salaried position where I'm not getting overtime anymore, I often check in with myself when I'm starting to feel like I just feel so stressed about everything and like I can't accomplish any of my tasks that need to get done. I love to write out physical sticky notes. When something makes it on the physical sticky note, it actually needs to get done versus my OneNote. So I kind of tend to check in with myself. What of these items actually needs to get done today? And what am I artificially making seem like it's a problem today when really it could be solved tomorrow or next week? Am I feeling stressed because I have too many things to do, or I'm just not sure where to start with them? And it's that analysis paralysis that's causing the stress. So that's one of the biggest things for me is just like task management.
I love the sticky note idea. I think I might
Yeah,
take
that's
that
great.
because my OneNote is atrocious. Like I have 18 things that I could do today.
I struggle the most with like blurring lines after hours. When I get home, come home, I've walked the dog, whatever, and then I like find myself opening my laptop when like nothing is on fire. Like I can wait till tomorrow. But I'm like, oh, I have free time. I should be working. Like, no, like rest is productive. So like I try to hold myself accountable to a few things. Like when I'm done work, like I change my outfit. Even if I wore sweatpants at home at work, like I put a new pair of sweatpants on. Like, I go for a walk, like I just change the pace that I'm going at. And then something that's really helps me is on my phone, I did like I can't remember what the setting is called, but like
Quiet hours or something like that.
yeah, for Outlook and Slack specifically. I turned off notifications after a certain hour and it doesn't turn back on until another hour. If nothing is on fire, do I need to check Slack at 9 p.m.? No, but I do it. That adds to your burnout, right? If you're constantly processing information about work, like you're never giving yourself time to relax. Putting those boundaries and like changing the pace so that I stop looking at my laptop, it just helps me mentally get away from work.
On that front, I work a hybrid schedule, so I'm in office and home some of the time. I try to have one night a week that I leave my computer at the office so I physically cannot work anymore.
That is so
And
strong. Wow.
some days I'm like, I could take it right now, but I really try to get into the office on Mondays, leave my computer there Monday night into Tuesday, and have that one night where it's just not even a possibility. And that has also been hugely beneficial. And I'm trying to encourage others to do that more. Burnout tip of the day: try not to have your computer with you at all times.
Guys, I'm so successful at that. I never take my computer home.
That's amazing.
I'm such a star.
Yeah, this is making me realize I have no burnout coping mechanisms. I'm just freeballing it. I don't know. I don't, but I'm learning. I'm learning a lot here, guys, and I'm gonna have to do one of these.
A few weeks ago, Sam was here at my house and we were chatting about what success and like what growth is going to look like for us now. And for me, like, I definitely want to keep advancing in terms of positions because I haven't really reached where I want to be yet. But Sam, you said something like, I could be in the role I'm in now for the rest of my career. Knowing you as a person, you're not going to do that. But you have the option to slow down and prioritize other parts of your life. Is that something that you would still see as growth?
I definitely still see it as growth. And yet, my career for my industry specifically has been exponential in growth. And that is something I have a lot of pride in. I was just lucky and I worked really hard and advocated for myself, and it just worked out. But now I'm at a point where I am starting to slow down. And I think this position that I'm in now, my company is going through some changes. My role is expanding and changing. And I feel there's still a lot left to learn in my role. So I'm very comfortable with where I'm at right now. Julia, I would love to get to the point where if I stepped away, it would keep going. It did when I recently took time off, but I still felt the need to check my email. There were still people that were trying to get in contact with me. So I'm happy to say that I'm no longer chasing the next title or position. I really love my team. I feel very supported by my management. Yeah, I'm just starting to enjoy life a little bit more.
I just want to say too on that point, I'm in a similar position where I'm going to be in some project management role for the next 20 years, probably. And I keep reminding myself that I worked this hard for the last 8.5 years to get to the point where I have the flexibility to say, I'm going to take a month and go to Australia, and you're all going to figure it out because I've built strong project teams. For me now, I'm feeling like the success was getting to the point where I'm able to do these types of things. I'm able to financially support those types of things and have the amount of flexibility in my life and my schedule. So for me, that is a sign of success that you're able to take that pause now. I've definitely felt that shift now that I've made it to the management level. Now I can take a beat and figure out what the next thing is or what I want it to be.
I
Totally.
don't know if any of the three of you desire or are planning to have kids, but let me tell you that taking a 3-month maternity leave is life changing and mindset changing because you come back after 3 months of touching nothing and the world has kept spinning. And you realize that people will step up and they will figure it out because in the weeks after you have a baby, you're not going to be checking the Slack and like you're not going to be checking your email because you're going to be sleeping when you can and delusional the other half of the time. You'll have 80 emails from when you were first out where people are still copying you and they're like, oh no, what are we going to do? Because they're not here. And then it'll stop because they'll figure it out. It's scary because you're like, oh, do you guys need me at all? And then you realize, okay, I'm back and I can reestablish myself and get back into what I do. But it really gives you some perspective about how possible it is to take time for yourself.
I love
That's,
hearing that.
yeah, it's very encouraging. I feel like you just see a lot of like negative things about like working and having kids, but I've noticed myself as I've gotten in my old age of 30, like
Right.
when I'm looking at people that I admire or want to be like, I notice it's different now and it's parents at the workplace because they react so much better. And I'm like not hating on non-parents, like if you don't want kids, like go you. But I agree. I think like they have a really good perspective, and it's something that I've admired about them, and that they're able to do both and feel fulfilled with both. Like you can do it if that's what you want. And I think that's really cool, being able to have the life you want outside of work and be good at your job. Like you can do both things and be happy doing it.
Don't get me wrong. Being a working parent sucks.
Yeah, not downplaying that at all.
But yeah, I do think it gives you a lot of perspective. Like, is this project we're working on the most important thing in my life? No. And you can see when the project is the most important thing in someone's life versus when it's not. I think that that can cause some frustration for some people who like don't understand why a deliverable isn't like your number one priority and why you're not up until 2 a.m. working on it. But it also just allows you to have a lot more balance.
I feel like the people that I admire most with their ability to set boundaries are parents. Some of my biggest role models are my supervisors and my project managers that are able to sign off at 5:30 and then not bombard their teams with emails the entire rest of the evening. It's just that ability to say, like, this is not the priority right now in my life. So I built these teams for you to all figure it out on your own. And we all do.
This conversation has very nicely segued into our next kind of question for both of you, which is how your definition of success has changed and grown and developed since starting your career. So, how you measure success for yourself changed? And what did it look like when you first finished school versus now?
When I graduated and I got this job, I spent a lot of my emotional bandwidth like worrying about what other people were thinking about my career choices. It was so important to me that people thought I made good choices, which is so silly now that I think I say it out loud, but maybe other people feel that way too. I was like, oh, I was successful in college. I have to continue being successful. And that definition of success is other people's approval of what I'm doing. Now, success is, did I make things easier for my team today? Did I fight for them? Did I send that spicy email to help them? And like, that's how I know I'm being a good leader. And like, I don't care what anybody else thinks now. But it took me a while to get there.
I feel like I had a very similar outlook when I left school. It was a hard transition to not have grades anymore. Like, yeah, you have a performance review, but you don't write a paper and then somebody says, yeah, A plus. You write a paper and you get a bunch of comments and you're like, are these good comments or bad comments? What does it mean? I don't know. So early in my career, I feel like I saw getting feedback as such a negative thing. And I struggle with being a perfectionist. So I wanted every single deliverable to be the top notch, most perfect thing. And like was always striving to be the best person in my class, if you will. And then just that transition to realizing that sometimes that perfectionist part actually holds us back from getting things done at all, getting out of that, I guess, zero sum game where my achievements mean somebody else wasn't doing something or it was better than somebody else. Like, really, we can all be working hard and all be contributing and making things better. So I think that shift was really important for me, not trying to be on the dean's list anymore. Are you doing the types of work that are fulfilling to you? So, like, for me now, I've shifted into building a team that's capable of carrying on in my absence versus I have to be the one to do everything and do it perfect. So that shift from individual to more this like holistic success of everyone or my team or my business.
I really love what both of you said. I think about LinkedIn. Julia, you had said at the beginning of the episode that you're really competitive. And I think social media, I feel like such a boomer. I'm like, social media, it's ruined the generations. But I do think about, what that earlier definition of success meant and, the approval of others and making the right decisions in your career, and that we have platforms to literally talk about our successes in our career. And there are people that judge, like, is she deserving of that position? Right. Like, there's so many other people who can literally comment, physically comment on those achievements.
Don't worry, Sam. I did tell Julia during our prep call that part of the reason we asked her to be on this call was because her promotion made me have a midlife crisis.
Sorry.
I did reveal that tidbit. Also, tangent. I accidentally had a LinkedIn post go viral a couple months ago, and I have two haters in the comments, and they're very funny. I laugh reacted both of them. So I do recommend going on my LinkedIn
Oh my God, I'm gonna look.
and reading the comments. They're pretty
I love
golden.
that.
Yeah.
I'm also like kind of a boomer about LinkedIn, social media. There's this meme on Instagram that I saw that was like this guy, and he's like, I got engaged this weekend. Let me tell you what it taught me about B2B sales. It's crazy.
And it all ends with the rocket emoji because it's
Yes,
all
always.
written by Chat GPT.
Yes, yes. This isn't even an original thought. You just like upload a picture of you proposing to your partner, and
You
now
said, Chat GPT, help me relate my marriage proposal to career growth.
That's the one thing I hate about LinkedIn because I used to read a lot more heartfelt things about people's career, and now it is all just manufactured. I use ChatGPT for like the nonprofit and doing a lot of marketing, and that's because I'm not creative enough to like come up with witty, fun captions for some event my nonprofit's doing. But like all of my captions on my LinkedIn stuff, those are real, 100%.
no, it can get really inauthentic really fast on LinkedIn. And I feel like it's taken like this weird turn and it puts pressure on people. If I don't have something to post with the 85 rocket emojis, like what am I doing? It's hard not to like self-reflect, but there's strength in like quiet success too. I say that and there's a ginormous picture of me on LinkedIn, which is a little bit of a jump scare if you like open it. But it's okay not to post those things if you don't want to. There's a lot of benefits to that too, probably for your mental health to not post on social media.
So, can each of you give us like a one-liner of advice that you would give your younger self who just started out in the working world?
This is like pretty cliche. And I think I heard a celebrity say it. I don't know who it was. If I was talking to like 2018 me, 2017 me, I'd be like, embrace how much you are. Like, I've been told forever I'm too bossy and too this, too that, too masculine, all these things. And that's what makes me really good at my job. I had to be around the right people to feel good about those traits about myself. I would tell me, it's a good thing that you're a lot.
I just got feedback today that I'm tough but fair, and I felt like that was a real success, honestly. So,
Because you're from Maine.
yeah, tough had to make it in there. I mean, but no, Julia, that's so true. I have been in that outgoing too much boat. And yeah, I mean, that's what's made you this successful. So really embrace that part of you. I say this to younger Julia too. So.
Thanks.
It's so interesting. I'm so fulfilled by my career. I love the work that I do, but I don't know if any of you watch Emily in Paris. I'm a huge fan. Love it. I'm in a rewatch right now in preparation for December. But season one, Luke says to Emily, that's so American. You live for work, but in France, we work to live. And I think I would just remind myself that while work can be such a fulfilling aspect of our lives, it's not the only aspect of our lives. And that's not the only measure of success is the job title that you have at this moment or the project that you're on, and just not putting so much stock in your title versus others, being okay with the job that you have and it not just being the only thing in your life to get fulfillment from. I say on a
Agreed.
career-based podcast, but you know.
No, that's like what our whole thing is. Not only talking about work, but also talking about life outside of work and how the two relate. Because in your late 20s or 30s, life so rapidly changes that you can't just ignore it and pretend that it's not happening the whole time you're at work. In the past 4 years, I got married. I had two kids. I moved across the world. I moved back. And no, Sam didn't move across the world and move back, but her life has changed over and over and over again. And we all have. It's a crazy time in life. And to have this massive growth in our careers and these expectations of growth in our careers happen at the same time is so hard to navigate. And that's kind of the whole reason that Sam and I started this was like, let's talk about how it is to navigate that and navigate being young women at the same time and navigate having to kind of hide being young women at work. There are people I work with now who I don't think know that I'm still in my 20s. Like, because I have two kids and I've been married for a few years. And here in New England, that's not as common as it is other places I've lived, where I was in military towns where everybody got married when they were late teenagers or in their early 20s. So here, I think people just assume that I'm in my mid 30s, but they don't know that I'm 29 and going through it and trying to figure out how to like wrap up my 20s. So it's tough.
Your coworkers are like, Maggie has the best skincare routine. Like she's like
She looks so
She
young.
looks
No,
stunning.
don't be fooled. My Zoom
No,
setting,
the
the
face.
touch up my appearance is literally at 100. So like I got bangs to hide my forehead wrinkles because I was like, I don't want Botox. How can I fix that? And then I
Get
was like, you know
around it.
what? Let's cover it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that really resonates with me. I get embarrassed to say how old I am at work all the time because I feel like it makes people take me less seriously. It's actually crazy how often I get asked how old I am, like once a week, which is pretty wild. Like we'll be having a really productive conversation and they'll be like, "How old are you?" And I'll be like, "I'm 30." And then I can see they like just made a snap judgment about me. I know that's unavoidable sometimes. I'm not gonna lie about how old I am, but I want them to take me just as seriously as before they knew that, you know?
I
I
like to
feel
just make people guess and then tell them they're right.
That's smart.
sure.
Like, yeah, yeah, you got it right on.
I do find that the people that are asking me how old I am are 90% men. Other women are like, go you. You could be a teenager, a
Yeah.
teenage boss baby.
Before we wrap up the episode, we have some quick questions. We want to do like a single or couple word answer for these. So, one skill that secretly helped you climb the ladder faster.
Being really good at follow-up.
Raising my hand for any and all things that moderately interested me.
For me, office culture.
I would say woo. I took a strength finders test and I'm really good at wooing people.
What's one thing you've negotiated for that wasn't money?
Flexible work schedule.
Not necessarily the amount of time off, but taking time off and making people be okay with it.
I was also going to say unsanctioned vacation time. Like I'm taking a Friday off and I'm not using PTO.
I unsuccessfully tried to negotiate for more time off. Turns out that my current employer has a very strict, like, you have to be here this number of years. So that didn't work out. So I've got nothing. All right. Finish the sentence. Success in engineering leadership is, for me, balance. Chris?
Listening.
I'll say success in engineering leadership is asking questions.
A competent team that knows when to ask you questions.
This is my favorite episode yet. This has been a really awesome conversation, and I appreciate you guys so much for joining us, even though it's a Monday night and we definitely all could be sitting back and relaxing and sending some work emails. Well, you guys would. My computer's at the office. My favorite takeaway from this episode is that success doesn't always speak for itself. Like sometimes you have to speak for it. And I think that that's not something I've done enough. And it's something that I need to prioritize. Sam, what's your favorite takeaway?
Embracing who you are and all the bits and pieces. Honestly, it made me like a little weepy because you can't always be 100% even on your best days. And being able to embrace hard parts of your work, but still show up every day as you are really helps in like being vulnerable with your team and being honest with them when you're struggling too.
So, Julia and Mary, if listeners want to connect with you guys, are you cool with them finding you on LinkedIn?
Of course, send us a message. It's just really refreshing talking to you three that like we all struggle with the same things in different fonts. We've all kind of seen similar challenges just trying to be successful women in our careers. I think we're all making it a little easier for the next woman that comes behind us.
Yeah, I love just hearing the shared experience, even being in a bunch of different fields and coming at it from a bunch of different angles, but still having that camaraderie and being able to lean on this community when things are getting tough or you need advice for what's next or how do I get to where I want to be. So, yeah, it's been amazing to chat with you all.
Next time, we will be talking about engineering culture, the good, the bad, the ugly. This has been a blast. Thank you all for listening and tuning in. Make sure to follow us on Instagram at Not So Civil Pod. You can listen to this episode on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
So, we'll talk to you guys next time. And remember, keep it civil, at least a little.